What's one thing you can do that's proven to help you be more productive at work and less stressed in life? Take a vacation. Wait, what? Not just any vacation, a well-planned vacation. In this video, we'll talk about what you can do as a manager to make sure that your time off is actually off, not off-ish. The first step is to think about what your vacations have been like in the past and what you want them to be like in the future. If you've had those vacations where you may be working furiously up to the point that you leave, but then you end up on your time off taking calls, getting messages, checking email, either because emergencies come up and nobody else can handle them, or you feel this sense of obligation or at peace, like it'll be better when I go back if I just check in every day. But thinking, does that really help you to disconnect and take that time off? And wouldn't you like to have a vacation where you can actually disconnect? Where when you go on that vacation, you may still work kind of furiously getting ready for it, but when you take that time off, you can disconnect and know that others are handling things and that you're not going to be tethered to your phone the whole time, waiting for chats and things like that, and that you don't have your friends and family saying the whole time, you're always working. And so really thinking about what you want that experience to be like and not being limited by a mindset of, that sounds great, but that's not at all possible. Thinking about exactly what that looks like to make it possible and then putting it into action. So the next step is once you've thought about what you want your vacation to really be like, and I, like a lot of people, spent a lot of my career doing a lot of work because I felt like I had to, or at times I feel like it may make me more peaceful. But then I ended up in a job where I had a coworker who we'd cover for each other when we were on vacation. And in that experience, it was the first time I was really able to travel without having a laptop. And so in that instance, I realized that it is possible. In thinking about it, it's possible in almost any job to be able to take that time off. But doing it and having those plans can matter. So it can be first talking to your boss, because as a manager, you still have people that you report to. And a lot of times you may think, well, my boss knows, but they count on me to be available on time off. And so nothing I can say to them was going to make any difference. And that may be true. Everybody has to make choices about what you're going to do. But it may also be possible that your boss doesn't realize what you're doing when you're on vacation. They know things are getting done. They may not even have remembered that you're on vacation and forget about that. But so sometimes it's having that conversation and saying candidly, when I've taken vacations, I've almost been on more than I've been off. And the problem is, when I come back, I feel like I haven't been able to recharge, and I just feel exhausted, and it's almost not worth taking in the first place. And so I'd love to find a way where I can set things up in advance to actually be able to recharge. Because your boss may have other people that are able to do that. They may be taking practices that they've done. They may delegate to you or others on time off. But having that conversation and making sure that they're actually aware of what's happening and understanding the impact of work, that's a possibility. Because ideally, most bosses don't want a situation where their teams are so stressed out and burnt out that they feel like they don't have a choice, but they just can't take it anymore. But so articulating both your needs to make sure that you need to have that time and recharge, but also thinking about their needs, that they need to make sure that work gets done, and finding ways to plan to make sure that things are effectively delegated. So as part of that conversation, not just saying, I need to take time off, I need to figure things out, but adding that point to say, I want to make sure I can effectively recharge and also give opportunities to my team by having them delegate. And whether it's having you as a point of contact during some of that, but talking about what you can do to help set it up so you can say to make sure work is still getting done and give my team some of those opportunities while I recharge as well. That can help because as a manager, you likewise have a lot of things on your plate and you likely want to give your team members the opportunity to take time off as well. So a lot of these lessons that I'm saying that can be helpful for you to take to your own leader are ones that your direct reports, your team members, may need to hear from you as well. So having that conversation with your boss and letting them know, you're thinking about these. Again, there may be other colleagues, plans, they may have ideas about how that you can best delegate, but by raising that and letting them know in advance of the time that you're looking to take off and planning in advance. The next step is talking to your team. And it can be helpful to do a little bit of homework in advance, which is thinking about times when you've gone on vacation. What are things people reach out to you about? Or if outside of working hours, you're frequently getting the same questions, what can you do? Because some of these strategies that you think of to be able to take time off for vacation may identify things that are happening in work that don't need to be emergencies even when you're working. So really thinking about the types of questions that you're getting repeatedly in ways that, especially if you're getting them from different team members, you can actually, as part of the training to prepare for time off, give team members those answers so they feel more autonomous and can do work more even during the normal work time when you're not taking vacation. But so thinking about that, what are the questions that you tend to get at those emergencies? And also thinking about that for yourself. Are there times that you're checking in just because you feel like this sense of obligation? There's not as much that your team may be able to do for that, but just really thinking in yourself, what if I were to give that up a bit and have team members that are taking things on and feel more confident in what they're doing? So making this list. And then even talking to your teams and saying, it's really important for us to take our time off. And this is why it's going to be really important for you to make sure and look at your team members and talk to them individually to make sure they're proactively taking their time off as well. But so saying, as a manager, I want also for a manager role, this role to be sustainable and it to be a role that you all want to move into one day. And so if I'm ever saying I'm too busy to take vacation, then most of you all probably wouldn't want that job one day. So I want to make it so that every role in this company is able to take time off and recharge just like anybody else. But so thinking about that, so talking to your teams about systems, processes, and asking them those questions. Like when you take time off, are you able to really do that? Are there things that only you know? And so a lot of those questions you having as well and thinking about, if I were to take time off, I weren't here, what would you do? And so talking to your team members about that. And that can help. Thinking about the questions they have. And depending on your teams, if there's a lot of individuals in the same role, then it may be helpful to talk about these in a team environment. If you have a lot of individuals with different roles, different specialties, talking more individually as well. It can be helpful to do both. But really thinking about that, of if you have questions on different topics, what would you do if I weren't here to answer them? And what are things that you would need, my boss to be available for? What are things that we can talk about in advance and you can make decisions on? So a lot is thinking about those systems and processes and saying, this is designed to help not just me take time off as the manager, but for each of you all, and to think about what we all do on our team that when we're going on vacation, we don't have anybody else to step in. And so mapping that out. Okay, what are things that you're going to do that if a question comes up, it's just going to have to wait? What are things somebody else can answer? What are things that you can make a decision on? And especially for that, as a manager, your team's going to want to make sure that they're not going to get into trouble for making a decision when you're not there. Because that, if you're taking a vacation and taking the time to recharge as you should, and your team's making these decisions, it can really hurt things if all of a sudden you come back and you think, wait, why did you do it that way? And so part of this is really talking in advance to your team, but understanding the way that any team member does things may not be exactly like you do it or like others do it. And some of that, there may be things that they need to know, so making sure team members know that. But at other times, it can be a way for them to find their own voice, their own style. So as a manager, those are things that can be hard to give up, that sense of, okay, I like things done the specific way. But knowing that when you give team members this autonomy, the ability to make decisions sometimes about how things are done, even if you're telling them the what and the when, but giving them that autonomy can really help overall. And so in this, it can be really these kind of three conversations with yourself, really thinking about what vacations have been like and what you want them to be like. Because things aren't going to change unless you intentionally take steps to do it. And again, then just saying, well, I'm going to take a vacation and recharge. Both of you then leave, put out of office and don't check anything, but haven't had those preparatory conversations with your own boss and with your own team, well, you likely are going to come back to the fire. That makes it a lot less palatable to take a vacation like that in the future. But so thinking about not just what you want vacation to look like, but how you can communicate to your boss and get their buy-in for how you may delegate things, but also then for your team, and show that you have those levels of trust in them. And reminding yourself that it really takes some action to know they're not going to do things exactly the same way you do, but planning and preparing in advance, so mapping all of this out. So if you like these videos, on Thursdays, I send emails in the Manager Method Minute newsletter. And in that, I'll include some very real examples of how you can have these conversations with your team so that you can take that time off, and they can as well, and make it really valuable time off. And that's what can help people have time off be more productive and also help to decrease stress in their life, in and out of work.